Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Rowan, and we finally reached Strixhaven, School of Mages Preview number 2. So all these new cards are finally released. There's some that were released today, and let's look at them. So the first set of cards we have is Expanded Anatomy for 3 colors, and it's a sorcery, and they have lessons in this series. So it says put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. The next card is Introduction to Annihilation. Again, this is another lesson card. It says exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. Next card is Introduction to Prophecy. It is a lesson as well for 3 colors. It says scry 2, then draw your card. These cards have a lot of lessons. This is the whole point of the series is Strixhaven. Next card is Eager First Year. 1 color, Cinema Planes. It's a Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, Eager First Year gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and it's a 2/2. Next we have is Professor of Symbiology. It's a creature, it's a core cleric for 2/1 for 2 mana. When Professor of Symbiology enters the battlefield, you may learn. So this ability to learn is you may reveal a lesson card from your own game outside, put it into your hand, or discard a card to draw a card. Again, we're going to be learning. Learn is the new ability for this series. Then we have Archmage Emiris for 2 colors and 2 islands. It's a human wizard. Has Magecraft, so it says whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, draw a card. And that's a rare and it's a 2/2. So you're going to see a lot of Magecraft learning abilities in this series. Next we have is Pop Quiz, 2 colors and an island. And it says draw a card, and then you have that learn ability. Next we have is Waterfall Aerialist for 3 colors and an island. It is a Djinn wizard. It's also a creature with flying. It has Ward 2, which is an ability that we're going to be seeing a lot in Strixhaven as well. Ward is whenever this creature becomes the target of spell or ability an opponent controls, counter unless that player pays 2. And next we have is Confront the Past with 1 swamp, and it's a sorcery, and this is going to be a lesson. It says return target planeswalker card with mana X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Remove twice X loyalty counters from a target planeswalker or an opponent controls. So then we have Professor Onks, the first legendary planeswalker we see. And it says Metalcraft, and then we got the lose life. Each opponent sacrifices creature. So the typical when it comes to the Professor Onks cards. Then we have First Day of Class for 1 colors and a mountain. It's an instant. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end of turn. Then the ability Learn. Then we got Storm Kiln Artist. It's for 3 colors and a mountain. Again, very expensive for this type of series. It's a Dwarf Shaman, which has +1/+0 for each artifact control, and then it has that ability, Magecraft. Next card on the list is Dragon's Guard Elite for 1 colors and a forest. It's a human druid with ability of Magecraft, but then it has the 4 colors for 2 forests, double the number of +1/+1 counters on Dragon's Guard Elite. Really cool ability. And then we got a legendary creature, Bird Wizard, Abraham Dean of Theory for 2 colors and 2 islands. It says flying. Exile the top X cards of your library and put study counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own from exile with a study counter on into your hand. Next card we have is Kian, Dean of Substance with 2 colors and a forest. It's a legendary creature, elf druid. So tap and exile the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. For 4 colors and a forest, create a 0/0 green and blue creature token with put a +1/+ counter on it for each different mana value among non-land cards you own in exile with study counters on them. Then you have Augusta, Dean of the Order for 2 colors and a white plains. This is a human cleric. It says other tapped creatures you control get +1/+0. Other untapped creatures you control get +0/+1. Whenever you attack, untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. Then we have Plar, Dean of Chaos for 1 colors and of course a mountain with that name. It's an Orc Shaman, so discard a card, draw a card. Then for 4 colors and a mountain, reveal the cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary non-land card with a mana cost value of 3 or less. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, but all the revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. I can see this card being very banned soon maybe, because this is too good for 1 colors and a mountain. Everyone's going to be playing that one with red. Then we have good old Rowan, Sculler of Sparks. We've seen her on many occasions. So instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and then you have her abilities right there. Next we have Will, Scholar of Frost for 4 colors and an island. It says instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Then you have up to 1 target creature with the base power of toughness 0/2 until end of turn. Draw 2 cards if you want to nearly kill him. Then for each permanent you exile this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue red elemental creature token. That's -7, so I'll do well. Then we have Chalet, Dean of Radiance for 1 colors. And on planes, it's a legendary creature, Bird Cleric, which is pretty obvious as expected. Has flying and vigilance for that 1/1. It says put a +1/+1 on each creature you enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So I can see this card being very powerful for white right now. Next we have good old Flamethrower Sinatra for 1 colors and a mountain. It's a sorcery rare. Discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery card this way, Flamethrower deals damage equal to the card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Then we have Tort Sculptor for 2 colors and 2 islands. It's a Merfolk Wizard for 2/2. Has the ward, which we're going to see a lot in Strixhaven as well. It says when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless the player pays 2. When it enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to half the card's mana value rounded up. Then we have Nasari, Dean of Expression for 3 colors and 2 mountains. It's a Freak Shaman. So all these cards really make sense. The wizards and shamans, everything are associated with their names, which makes sense. But this one says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library until end of turn. You may cast those spells. Among these exiled cards you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color of those cost spells. Whenever you cast a spell, from exile, put a +1/+ counter on this guy for a 5 or a 4/4, we're not too sure. Then you have Uvilidia, Dean of Perfection, and this is going to be a Djinn Wizard. It says you may exile instant or sorcery card from your hand and put the 3 hone counters on it against at the beginning of your upkeep. This card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it, and when this last hone counter is removed from the card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. If it costs 4 or less to cast this way, anyway, for this 2/2. Next we have is the Seat, Dean of the Root. It's a human druid. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn. So I can see this card not being played very much. Then you have Valentine, Dean of the Vein, and this is the first one that costs only 1. Has menace and lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So I can see this Vampire Warlock being used very well because it's already 1 for a 1/1 menace and lifelink. You can't beat that card right now. Next we have is Casminia Enigma Sage for a green and an island and 1 colorist. Basically it says each other planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of her. Scry 1, create a 0/0 green blue fractal creature token. Then you have search your library for an instant or sorcery card. Next we have Lorehold Apprentice for a mountain and a plains. It's a 2/2, so already that's really good, with the Magecraft ability. Next on our list is Pest Summoning for 1 colors, either be a swamp or forest, and it's a lesson, we haven't seen that in a bit. So create 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with. When this creature dies, you gain a life, so not that good, but again it is a common. Then you have Prismari Apprentice for 1 island and a mountain. It's a human shaman. And then it has that Magecraft for that 2/2. Next we have is Quadrix Apprentice for a forest and an island. It's a 2/2 as with most of these, and it's a human wizard. Next we got this very impressive legendary creature, Elgin Dragon. It's a 2/5 for a plains, a swamp, and 3 colors. It's Quadrix Silver Quill. Really cool picture, I really like that. Has flying and double strike. At the beginning of your combat, on your turn you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. So if you're playing 1-on-1, it won't make a difference. So it says target player, create a 2/1 white-black inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card, loses 1. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. So the only thing that hold back this card is if it had haste. Next we have is Silver Quill Apprentice for a plains and a swamp. It's a human warlock with the Magecraft ability for that 2/2. And again, then we have Witherbloom Apprentice for a swamp and a forest, which has that Magecraft ability for a 2/2, and they're pretty typical as you can see based on their color. Then we finally have a preview on some of their rare lands. First one is Frost Boil Snarl. Look at that picture. Enters the battlefield, you may reveal an island or mountain card from your hand. If you don't, comes to the battlefield tapped. Then you have Furry Calm Snarl. And it has the same thing. It says enters the battlefield unless you reveal a mountain or plains. Comes into play tapped. Then we got the other colors on the series. We have Necro Blossom Snarl for the swamp and forest. Then you have Shine Shadow Snarl for the plains and the swamp. Then we got good old Vine Glimmer Snarl. And then we have the full art for Quadrix Silver Quill. I like that picture. I'm really curious to see what it is when it's printed. For the last set of cards, we have Dragon's Guard Elite for that one color in a forest, and it has the full art, really cool full art. Then it has the Magecraft, and then the +1/+1 counters, as you've seen with the other card. And then the last one, we have Archmage Emuterus for 2 colors in an island. So it has that Magecraft for 2/2. So if you like this video, there's another preview on the channel, and there's other videos. So I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening.